there is this feeling of, well, why would you walk away from a hit show where you get to eat the most delicious thing on earth unless you had a health problem? And a lot of people thought I had a mental problem for doing that.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter was it was going to be a glacial movement. I knew that. But I had to move into a realm that scared me.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rodbard. The one and only Adam Richman joined me in the studio for a really memorable conversation. Adam has been a fixture of food TV for over 2 decades and is one of the sharpest minds in the game. His series, The Food That Built America, just returned for season 6, and we talk about his career exploring the foods of the world on shows like Man vs. Food and many other Food Network hits. Also on this episode, I have a great conversation with Lindsay Green. She's the restaurant critic at the Detroit Free Press and just released a memorable top 10 list. We go over many of the picks and discuss the exciting dining scene in Detroit and throughout the metro area. I hope you enjoy this episode. Adam Richman, welcome to This Is Taste.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I am great. We've been, for the listener, we've been having a grand old laugh before we started recording. So you guys are primed for gold, or I am about to get canceled. We're going to figure this out.
Yeah, we weren't recording then. It's interesting that we didn't hit the red button.
Which is why we're friends forever.
We're friends forever, right here, you and I.
We're the 3 best friends that anyone could have.
Yeah, well, Adam, I love your work.
Thank you,
I've been
bro.
a huge fan of everything. And why I like it is because with your deep acting and comedy chops, you've got a real interest in food. You really care about the history of food. I think goes back to your earliest television. You weren't just doing stunts. Of course, there were stunts, but you were caring about the food.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing is, right, I came up working in restaurants and doing catering when I was 13 and knowing what the exposure would mean. It was almost always about the restaurants and the people first and foremost, because people forget Man vs. Food came out late 08 and through 09, and that was a pretty pre-pandemic. That was one of the worst times for independent businesses. So to be able to elevate those businesses, it was like, okay, it can't be all about the happy, fun eating machine. I have to make sure I give love to these.
You were really ahead of the curve in kind of thinking about you and Guy Fieri in many ways. I think Guy does a good job of highlighting restaurant owners who maybe don't have a publicist, who maybe aren't in New York City.
Absolutely.
I think that's what was so great about early Food Network and the way you could change people's lives by being in their space and recording with them.
Which is, I mean, such a gift to be able to do it and to find out that like being on Man vs. Food gave places 80 to 300% more business.
Yep.
During a rough time. The fact that I've maintained friendships with lots of these owners. Lauren Takao, who was one of the challengers on Man vs. Food Nation, her family's in California now and just tried this bowl I made for Sweetfin. I mean, her little girl was 1 year old and is now like a sponsored skateboarder. So
that's rad.
It's so cool
to see that through. Well, okay, you grew up in Sheepshead Bay. You live in the Bronx. You're in the city. You're all over New York. Where do you like to go out these days when you're in the city for restaurants?
That's a great question. You know, the thing is, I'm on the road so often, I don't always get to cook. So I think that, being home, I just moved in July, so I'm still kind of unpacking because I haven't been home. I film a different show in England, so I'm gone for 3 months. So I was gone pretty much like late August through Thanksgiving. Where do I like to go? I think, so I guess I really like to explore. I tend to find out about the super hot restaurants a little late because I'm playing catch up with the hot restaurants of last year. Like I've mentioned places and people are like, oh, you're so 2000 and late. But I think, and I love fine dining for sure, but there are places that I genuinely, truly miss that are near and dear to my heart, like Brennan and Carr in Brooklyn. It's a place I grew up going to. I just discovered an amazing pizzeria called Louie and Ernie's in the Bronx, which is spectacular. But also there's so many cuisines that I've been exposed to now that I live in the Bronx. I mean, I've heard about, but trying Trinidadian food or Guyanese food, different things in Jamaican cuisine other than jerk, which is kind of what everyone gets. I'm a Jewish guy. I'll always try a good Jewish deli. I just found Liebman's.
Yeah.
They were in Riverdale. They just opened one in Ardsley. So I'm a big fan there. And to be fair, like I'll always take a good recommendation, but I'll be honest, I so seldom get a chance to cook, and to have agency in what goes into a dish is quite awesome. But I'm not gonna lie, like a delivery app is proof God loves us and wants us to be
Indeed,
happy
man. Uber
sometimes.
Eats saving the world
Every
in
so
many
often,
ways.
yeah,
Maybe
I
not
mean-
that specific platform. We don't endorse any platform, but
Absolutely. I like Ralph's, the Ices
Oh, yeah.
company.
yep.
And Uncle Luigi's really, really good. Yeah, there's a few great Indian places. Coromandel, I think they make really lovely food. I mean, but then again, like I just took my mom to Danielle for her birthday, and the guy reinvents the wheel with every dish he touches. He's
Yeah.
just spectacular. But I still haven't been to Fort Charles, and I still haven't been to myriad places. I always see Adam down at Pop Up Bagels,
Yeah.
and I love.
They're doing good work there.
Oh, Adam's the best, and
Like that place.
Emilio's Bellotto.
Back room? You going in the back room?
I have been in.
Take me to Emilio's. Who's at your table at Emilio's? Because I feel that's like where the heavies hang out.
Oh wow, thank you. So it was funny because, Tony was my mentor. Anthony Bourdain. Sorry, I don't want to start the pretentiousness. I'm sorry, and he was a big fan, and it was the dinner that we always couldn't ever coordinate. And Anthony, who was the chef there, was saying it's so funny when I had come in, he said that was the last table he sat at here, just randomly. I just went there recently with the head of ITV Sport and one of the heads of ITV Soccer, and we went into the back room, and then we went to their little speakeasy.
Yeah, they had that little
afterwards.
spot in the back. Yeah.
But they are, I mean, with such a small kitchen to turn out the variety of dishes they do. Execution is flawless. I just don't. The kitchen's the size of a postage stamp. It blows me away that
it's
they're
really,
able to
really
achieve
well
it.
said, because the cooking there isn't ever talked about. It's like David Bowie went there and Leo's in the back and all that shit. But like when you get down to like the Italian American classics, Emilio's Bellotto is like one of our top 5 places in New York.
It has to be. It has
to be. It's a really good place.
I mean, I have a show with First We Feast now. I mean, obviously I'm here talking about food that built America, but I do a show with First We Feast called Pro Moves, and I was lucky enough to film at Sushi Naz.
Oh, cool.
And I had met Nozomu Abe because I was the presenter at the Michelin Stars, so I gave him his 2nd star. It's, really remarkable. I still haven't been to Keen's, which is a big hole in my resume.
Really, the mutton. Gotta get the mutton.
Is that what I gotta
That's
get?
The guy. I feel porterhouse good, strip is good, but the mutton is my move there.
You know what's so weird for someone who prides himself on being an omnivore?
Yeah.
Filming all these shows in England, I was driving from, it's irrelevant where,
something
but
on something like
no, yeah. No,
yeah.
I was driving from Derbyshire, from the town of Bakewell to Chorley. And
you must laugh when you see these names sometimes.
Oh, yeah. I literally have taken screenshots because there are certain names that I go, that's going to be a character, because I have an obsession with screenwriting, and I feel I have a little bit of analysis paralysis to finish the screenplay, but I'm like, oh, that's a good name. But of course, oh my God, the fact when we were in the first season of Adam Richman Eats Britain, we were doing Cheddar in Cheddar Gorge. But so I was driving there and I was watching a bunch of sheep very clearly play a game. There was a little tiny wooden, tiny stone wall that had kind of collapsed. And I'm not kidding you. They were taking turns jumping over it one at a time. And I was like, I don't know if I can eat lamb again. And I have to tell you, outside of what I do on camera, and it ruined me. And I love, Greek food is one of my favorite cuisines. I love Indian food, and both of which are deep lamb heavy. And now you're telling me the mutton is the stuff to get.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you having sensitivity about the sheep. I have to say that for the 17% of you who listen to our show from the UK, fucking love you all.
Oh, I mean, the fact that the food in the UK is maligned is the ultimate mark of ignorance.
Ignorant.
It is.
Ignorant.
It's, Heraclitus said, dogs bark at those they do not know.
Yeah.
That I feel, well, okay, tell me that after you have real Dover sole, or you have red Leicester from Leicester, have cheddar in cheddar, have Cornish crab or Norfolk asparagus, those bright orange jammy yolks
Yeah.
from their eggs, the incredible milk, the incredible Duff Goldman and I were talking about it. British dairy is kind of unparalleled in many
Yeah, they have the
respects.
local dairies that go right into the supermarket.
It's the snack food that is where you go, oh, I get it. The flavor is beige. Like there's a thing called the pie barm, where it's just a pie on a bun, and you're just kind of like, what? Like, you need to do that shit? Like, really? But, up north, they love a pie bomb.
Yeah.
Hell, that what they good that. So they go in. But, I mean, I love good fish and chips. I love a good kebab.
South Asian food, too. Pakistani,
Superb.
Indian. Oh, my God.
Superb. Rush Home, the Curry Mile up in Manchester. You obviously have Curry Road, Tayab's in Whitechapel for their iconic lamb chops, which it's a hard thing to avoid.
Do you like
in.
doing your 3 months in England
more than
year?
anything?
That must be really nice to.
More than anything. I'm a quarter English, and I'm a profound Anglophile, and my friends there laugh at my wide-eyed joy at doing things like go into the corner shop or buying groceries. But it's because everything is so different, and trying to find what the analog is for that. And like, okay, that's stomach, so the stomach meds are called Rennie, and the Nurofen is the ibuprofen medicine, and paracetamol is what's instead of the Tylenol. But also learning cool little turns of phrase, hearing the accents. Your family's from Liverpool, and the idea that Manchester and Liverpool are about an hour apart, and the accents, the culture, the food couldn't be
It's very cool.
More different. Someone else pointed something out to me. There's big Irish population in Liverpool, and just north of Liverpool is a town called Blackpool. The translation of Dublin is Blackpool.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh.
That's why that accent is there. Blur or Oasis, there's only one correct answer.
Oasis.
Wow.
Oasis, really? There's no other way?
I mean, I'm an Alex James freak. I love that
like
guy.
Blur.
Blur is my guy. I that's the one.
Doesn't their guitarist, doesn't he make cheese and
Yeah, their
stuff
bassist is
now?
Alex James. He's amazing.
James, yeah.
He makes cheese up in the Cotswolds. He's cool as hell, and I've wanted him on the show. I've been asking for 6 years to get
Nick
him.
Frost had taken me out to dinner on my first press junket at a place called Hicks in Soho.
Oh, cool.
And he was there at the bar, and Nick told me that as an American, I felt, oh, how cool, because, there they had that northern-southern divide.
Yep.
And even stylistically, right? Like the type of music they make. But I lost my dad in 98, and What's the Story, Morning Glory was one of those albums I leaned on, not necessarily because there was, Don't Look Back in Anger and Cast No Shadow perhaps hit me at home. But I don't know, just driving around, it was sort of the thing that kept me company.
I want to go back to Sheepshead Bay growing up.
Yeah, Gravesend. Homecrest.
Oh, okay, let me redo that.
Homecrest. No, it's okay. It's right on the border. So it's kind of Sheepshead Bay. It's now.
Okay, so I was kind of right.
Yeah. It's, how things get called so many different things.
Yeah.
It's like Sodo Sopa. I lived on Homecrest between Avenue T and Avenue U, and I've now seen the area referred to as Homecrest, but it's 2 blocks off of Coney Island Avenue. So the closest intersection is Coney and U. So I've had people say, oh, that's Gravesend. Other people say, no, Gravesend is further down. You live by Marine Park. No, you live in Sheepshead Bay. All right, whatever. But I lived on Homecrest Avenue, and the biggest intersection was Homecrest and T.
What's food like growing up in your house?
Both of my parents were great cooks. Mom made sort of all the great Jewish classics, great grandma's recipes, grandma's. My dad, had some recipes up his sleeve from his family. My great aunts lived upstairs. And in point of fact, my great aunt Anne, she's the one who taught me how to cook the first thing I ever learned how to cook, which was a cheese omelet. And that was, and so that was it. But also,
was it hard or was it soft? What's the omelet like? Is it French style?
Wow, we're getting deep. No,
it was
just actually she was the one who taught me how to crack an egg and
Yeah.
taught me about pulling the omelet back from the lip of the pan and then pouring the liquid egg
I
and sort
like
of
it,
filling
yeah.
it in and stuff. But it was always just American cheese, butter, egg, salt, pepper kind of thing. But the Agostino family lived across the street and they were, I believe, Sicilian. So that was where I first tried caponata. There were Irish neighbors on one side, so I had Colcannon, I had Boxty, we had Syrian neighbors on the other side of us. So that's where I first had kibbeh and shawarma. And my dad had an office in Chinatown, so we were the first family I knew, white family at least, to have dim sum steamers at home.
Yeah.
And there was it was called the Superette. It was on the corner of Avenue U and Homecrest. And that's where I first had Genoa salami and capicola and mortadelle. And so I think those were the big classics. And then my mom's soups. I have been trying since 2009 to get my mother to sell her soups. I have to find a way. I've been filming videos of her making them, but they are truly spectacular. And my dad used to say, I fell in love with your mother for her beauty and her charm. Or he said, I fell in love with your mother for her beauty.
Let's get this one right.
Yeah, I want to remember now. I fell in love with your mother for her beauty, her charm, her intelligence and wit, but I married her for her pea soup and her steak au poivre.
Truly.
I mean, the man had his priorities right.
Where do you land on L&B Spumoni Garden?
I love L&B, and I actually have my 50th there.
Oh, wow. Yes, your team, they're like top 3. They're like podium for me for New York City slices.
And not even their slices. Have you ever eaten in their restaurant?
I have had the tasting menu at
With the little chef on the table?
Of course, I've had that many times. That is quite the feast, especially if you throw in a pie in the middle of it.
Oh.
Tell me about your 50th. I love that place.
Oh my God. So it wasn't on the actual day of.
It was a celebration.
Yeah, it was a celebration that my family came in, and it was so funny because everyone in my family and my friends that came in were saying like, I forgot how great this place was.
Yeah.
And how they didn't realize how much culinary skill is brought to bear in the kitchen. Lenny is just a master. So the most jumbo shrimp, like all the jumbo shrimp I've ever seen in every iteration. He does a dish with oranges and tomatoes in the sauce. Unbelievable charcuterie platters. He did bring over a couple of the square slices, which are always breathtaking. Baked clams, linguine vongole. He did an ossobuco.
Was there a baked pasta, I would imagine, thrown in the mix?
Like a pasta forno. I don't recall.
I think I had a lasagna or some kind of in my taste. I mean, they kept coming for me. I mean,
yeah. Yeah. No, the tasting menu. I was like, oh, it's a taxidermist thing. I went with an ex-girlfriend, like really, really early on, in the Man versus Food days, and he did his steak. He does a steak with, and I love that kind of the same way, with Brazilian churrascaria, they have like, farofa that they sprinkle on to kind of catch the juices and add a little bit of crunch. He does that with, it was like a mushroom and breadcrumbs, sexy, whatever the heck on that steak. I'm like drooling thinking about it. And yeah, I just remember it was like this boundless creativity. He takes plums and he does like a tempura batter on these plums, and he brought those out. Obviously, they're spumoni, the rainbow spumoni.
Always to close, you get it out front with the slices. You always get the end of like whatever meal you're going to have, the tasting or just a la carte. I love the spumoni there.
Love it.
Incredible.
And it's just, and I love the fact that it really is a cross section of the community. That's, Justin Kennedy, the proprietor of Parkway Bakery in New Orleans, who's a good friend, once said,
good one.
On a Friday at Parkway, he's like, you'll have the thief, the cop that catches him, and the judge that convicts him all eating a po' boy during Friday day in New Orleans. And it is like this grand equalizer, but it was just like everybody, because there were so many in my family and they all have different palates, and friends came and they all have different palates and different backgrounds. And the variety and the the definition of abundanza. And then I've had a burger concession at Citi Field now, and one of the
nice. They're starting this week.
Yeah, I'm coming back for this season as well.
Yeah,
and there's a guy, Don Donnarumma. I think his Insta might be like Cake Man Don.
That name is ill. That is such a name.
Yeah.
Damaruma?
Yeah, he's the man. Don, if I jammed up your IG handle, I'm sorry. But my family had a cake made sort of my face. It was incredible, and fondant, and they were like, "Oh, can we eat it?" And I kind of didn't want to cut into it because he made, in addition to bringing out spumoni, he does this thing. It was something like Stairs to Heaven. He has some name like that, and it's bombolone, and it's all these, and cannoli, and and it's this like tear just should come with like a syringe and some insulin. It was just breathtaking.
I want to switch gears. I mean, if you listen this far, you just hear Adam speak about food, and it's obviously it's not just passion, it's knowledge. And upon reflecting on that era when you and Andrew Zimmern, my buddy, were on TV and were being like pigeonholed as like the challenge guy and the guy who ate weird shit, and that was like the perception of your careers as these stunty dudes. But like both of you, if you hear you speak for even 5 minutes, you're like you're one of our deepest sourced and reputable writers.
Thank you.
So what was going through your head when like you had all this inside you and people are like, that's just the guy doing the challenges?
Yeah, it's tough. You're so lucky, so grateful to have success. You're grateful and lucky to have one freaking fan, let alone to be able to have a #1 rated show on a network. But when that's all people saw, it sounds sanctimonious to say it hurt. But
it must have hurt. Are you kidding me?
I'm very forthcoming about this. Like, I'm someone who struggled with my weight for most of my life, and now you're famous for eating a lot, which is kind of like the kiss of death for a heavy person. Because even if I stayed slim, even if I lost weight, you're still the big gluttonous pig. David Letterman made a joke. He called the show, "Let's Watch the Fat Guy Eat Till He Founders Like a Racehorse." And that was the other thing, right? Like, no one tells you how to go from being a consumer of pop culture to part of pop culture. And as a Letterman fan, that broke me a bit, and it hurt me tremendously because I've never cast a negative word about David Letterman. I was always a fan. I bought all the top 10 list books. So to have him mock me and say such disparaging things and all the nasty stuff that was written, I understand. Like, if you want the cash and prizes, it comes with that. But also, you're 100% right. And people, I want to dispel the notion. Everyone thinks that I left Man vs. Food because of health concerns. The truth of the matter is, I just felt it was unsustainable.
Yeah.
I think, there's not much variety. It's big, it's spicy, it's big, it's spicy. Maybe there's like an odd time limit or an odd physical challenge. But also, I wanted to do other things, and I remember people writing on Twitter like, "Well, I'm Adam Richman, I want to be taken seriously." But I don't think it's actually so outlandish to want to be taken seriously.
Yeah,
I don't think
human nature, especially when you have such passion and you read and you care about this stuff, and we care about it on our show, and we align that way. And it's got to be heartbreaking when someone thinks you're just the guy eating the 12 things.
Yeah, I mean, you look at someone that I deeply admire, like Donald Glover, a comedian, someone who wrote on a comedy show and then acted on a different comedy show. And then he went on to write the song of the year and another top hit. He Redbone and This Is America. Then he plays Lando Calrissian, and then season after season of Atlanta and hit Bonfire, and then because the internet, and there is this profound sense of redefinition. And I think there is this feeling of, well, why would you walk away from a hit show where you get to eat the most delicious thing on earth unless you had a health problem? And a lot of people thought I had a mental problem for doing that.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter was, if I ever wanted to, it was going to be a glacial movement. I knew that. But I had to move into a realm that scared me, and Bourdain was a big help with that. And initially, he told me the plan was to give me the layover, that he was gonna pass the layover off to me.
Yeah. And you work with ZPZ and have like
Mhm.
a show with real journalistic chops.
Correct. And to have him, and that was his whole thing. He was, and Tony, one of the ways we bonded, he kind of threw me under the bus on Letterman, and made a comment about how people watched my show the same way they watched Siegfried and Roy,
Oh man.
feeling like they wanted to see when the tiger would get a taste for German. And I wrote to him and I said, look, I get that it's shtick, and I respect that you feel that way. You have every right to if you want to, but I'm your friend. At least you told me I was. And I wrote this whole thing, and it hit,
It resonated, and he
yeah,
appreciated it.
yeah. It
Probably
wasn't
apologized.
like I castigated
He
him.
apologized, I imagine.
He did, and it was funny. Someone said, I think it's the first apology Tony's given out in years.
Yeah.
But I think he understood that it wasn't that he had said it. It's the fact, I just said, I don't want to like hang with someone who would rather have a good line than a good friend. And I understand that what I did and what I do, and even what I'm saying on this podcast, may not necessarily be for everybody, but I never seek to hurt anybody, and I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm always going to try to do more and to use what I've been given. And I think I have the gift of gab. I love research. I love meeting people. And yeah, I love food.
It all aligns, and I'm glad you said all of that, because it's interesting with the Donald Glover comparison. I feel like we just don't get taken seriously in food. Like, I feel like there's a whole body of critics for film and capital F film and television and prestige television.
Right.
But unfortunately, food somehow, when you go to the masses, it's only like one gear, and it's like like fun, and which is not a negative word, but it's like fun.
But do you feel that there's also, like, the contrapositive is also true in that there are other people that take it entirely too seriously? That for whom Peter Brook once wrote a book called The Empty Space about theater. And he said there was like 4 stages of theater: holy, rough, deadly, and immediate. And in deadly theater, he talked about that there's a type of theater that people make where it's really esoteric and out there and expressive and nonlinear. And people think, well, I didn't understand it, and it must be me. I'm the dolt. That, of course, the green crayon he ate in Act 2 symbolized his childhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's incumbent upon the artist, the chef, the actor, the whatever, to reach their audience, I feel. There's my little soapbox moment. And so I think that that's the thing. And don't get it twisted. To this day, I still face scrutiny from culinary professionals who resent the success I've had, saying he's not a chef and he's not going to culinary school and this, that, and the third. And you just, I feel that like food, there's like this precipice. I think social media has narrowed that gap. And now there's like room for someone that I really like Jack Goldberg. I feel, you'll find him, like he and I would text, he's in San Sebastian, was one of my favorite places, and he's eating pinchos, but he's also going to find, like, there's a balance. And
I think you're right, Adam, and I think it's a good point that with social video, we have all sorts of social video. We have people who are doing eating challenges, and we have people who are doing deep ethnographies of cuisines that haven't ever seen the internet. And I agree with you. I guess I'm probably should have clarified. This is more the Food Network and the major network food.
Sure.
For whatever reason, like network television, broadly consumed television gets much more critical acclaim and praise for its quality than food. I think food, when it's on a mass scale as a wide network, it's usually ridiculed. And I agree with you. People do take shit too seriously, and I think there's a difference between being serious and academic and just being, a hater. Mm-hmm. And like trying to like pick something apart because you can. I think there's that element to it as well.
Yeah, of course. Like, right, and it goes both ways, because I used to say this, like, well, what's the secret formula of success of man versus food? And I said, well, here's the deal. We all can't play golf like Tiger, dunk like Mike, run like Usain Bolt, throw a ball like Aaron Rodgers, whatever the
not so good these days, just saying, yeah.
Right, well, at the time, right? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, dated reference,
enough.
but we'll take
back
it.
in the, well, I'll take
back in the belt era.
Back in the Kentucky Championship belt era.
Yeah.
Okay, we all can't throw a ball like Brady, whatever it is.
Fair.
But I think
Noted.
that the point is that we could all eat a lot when we're hungry. And like the security guard in this very building said, I used to watch your show and say, oh, I could do that today. This just right before this interview. And we all eat food, and I think we're all profoundly opinionated. Someone told me when I was working in China Grill Management, I helped open Ono, that if someone likes a restaurant, they tell their friends, and if someone hates a restaurant, they tell everybody.
It's a story as old as time. It sticks.
And so, everyone's got an opinion because they have a way in. I can't really opine on how Halliburton plays a game of basketball because, I put up more bricks in a pizzeria, so I can't sit there and act like I'm
I love the Halliburton reference. It's a good one.
I think he's good.
I think he's definitely got a few more great years. Yeah. I think he's great. Good reference. Let's talk about your show. You're here to talk about the food that built America.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first off, what an incredible idea and execution. I love this show. I think it's like addictive. I think you're a huge part of it.
Thanks.
Coming in on camera for context. These reenactments, I have to ask you, what's like the style of these reenactments? It's obviously done tongue in cheek and with a real quality, like a production value, but it like doesn't always look that way. There's like, I'm trying to articulate why it's so good.
Well, I think so. History Channel had done Men That Built America.
Yeah.
And I think that was the very first time they realized that there was commerce in investing in these really cinematic reenactments. But what I noticed at season 1 on Food That Built America, that they weren't going to just reenact I have a key and I shall attach it to this kite and I will fly it in a storm. And, that there is a difference between the shit we watched when the AV squad would wheel in the TV versus this show. And the scene that I always point to is the fact that Dr. Kellogg at the Battle Creek Sanitarium used to give his younger brother notes while taking a shit. And it sort of immediately shows the dynamic. It immediately underlines the schism that was to come. And the fact that of all scenes within the life, is it the creation of cornflakes? Is it C.W. Post stealing, and creating? No, it's the moment. And they illustrate it. Relax, everybody. It's like not, you don't actually see him taking the Browns to the Super Bowl, but he's actually sitting there on the throne, and the brother is like, could we please discuss this another time? And what I loved about that is these were human beings. We have canonized them and lionized them. Milton Hershey's got a town named after him. Heinz has his name on a field. How many different things has McDonald's sponsored, even though the McDonald's brothers were wildly disenfranchised by Ray Kroc and so on and so forth? But these were human beings. Clarence Birdseye he pulled a fish out of the ice. It froze. I mean, he wasn't thinking about the minutia of, let's see. So when you freeze, ice crystals are hexagonal. So when you thaw, the hexagonal points pierce the epithelial wall of the cell, and therefore it's soggy. But if I freeze under pressure, it's going to... He noticed that this frozen fish tasted as good as when he had caught it. And there was a discovery, and it was a man, it's a woman like Debbie Fields or, Ann Byler, Ruth Wakefield. And they had a moment of ingenuity, but they're a human being, and they put on their pants one leg at a time like anyone else. But like Christopher Walken in the Cowbell sketch, when I put on my pants, I make gold records.
We had a lot of impressions off mic. I wish we were rolling them, but
way too many.
Okay,
gotta have more cowbells.
Way to sell and just like talk about the way these reenactments work and bring humanity to these people. As a boy from Kalamazoo, Michigan, just down the street from Battle Creek, love that episode. It's played in my home many times.
Yep.
I have a couple specific questions from the new season.
Oh, cool.
Because the new season is out and you can pick it up on streaming services. Let's talk about Mr. Coffee. I love this episode. We talk about coffee on the show. It's really, really good. It doesn't just talk about the coffee maker, Mr. Coffee, but goes into Folgers versus Maxwell House. Really, really important stuff. It's like really, really well researched and written. Of course, the talking heads, the host and the talking heads are adding really great context and makes the show really fun. I want to talk about that Mr. Coffee episode. Joe DiMaggio plays a role in Mr. Coffee.
The first food influencer.
Talk about this. Is a really good
So this is the truth. So just for context, and it's hard to imagine this. This was just, in the middle of the last century. People would get green coffee beans, roast them at home on a stovetop, grind them themselves as best they could, in many cases filtering it through pantyhose, through a sock. There's articles one can find where they recommended using fish skin or eggshells.
Fish skin to make it taste better.
And to keep the grounds out of the coffee, which is revolting. And this notion of, taking the technology of the bun, you might have seen them like at a church event or a temple event, BUNN. But the idea of having a constantly boiling massive samovar of water is terribly dangerous. But the greatest thing was, the creator was a bit of he likened himself to Michelangelo many, many times, or Da Vinci.
Oh, so he's a guy who likens himself to Michelangelo.
Yes.
That's his vibe.
Yes. Yeah. He created this thing where it would instantly heat the water, and he happened to take notice of the fact that when the Yankees won, there were several images of his teammates drinking champagne, but the Yankee Clipper is sitting in his locker with a cup of coffee and a cigarette, and he claimed because he really didn't drink, and he said in interviews he would have about 8 cups of coffee a day. Well, this guy flies to San Francisco, essentially stalks DiMaggio, finds where he likes to eat lunch, meets him there, says, "Let me buy you lunch and pitch this to you," pitches Mr. Coffee to DiMaggio. He's like, imagine it. Good, filtered, hot, restaurant quality coffee right in your home whenever you want it. And DiMaggio says, "Yeah, I have an ulcer. I don't drink coffee anymore."
Wow.
And you've flown all the way to SF, and the pitch was so compelling that DiMaggio lends his name, likeness, and voice to Mr. Coffee. And now, we could walk 30 steps from where we are in Midtown Manhattan and get a double decaffeinated, half calf, light cap, coconut milk, flat white, whatever. And again, it's why I loathe the fact that the soundbite used in the ad for this show is me saying the crotchety old man soundbite of young people today don't know how good they have it.
Oh man, we got to get that changed.
Seriously, I was telling you just before, I feel like I'd get off my lawn.
Yeah,
it's
bro.
the next thing.
No.
And pull up your pants.
That's not your vibe. You're with everybody. You're with Gen Z. You're hanging.
Exactly. What I simply meant by that is that I love coffee, and I love that I can now go to the supermarket and have excellent quality cold brew already in a bottle for me. Or I can go and get nitro cold brew like I got yesterday at Gregory's. Or I can I can have Ethiopian, or I could have Jamaican, or I could have Nicaraguan, Colombian coffees, and learn the difference and learn about brewing and roasting. But yeah, it's come a long way from the gold rush coffee has.
Let's talk about the brothers Carney and the brothers Monahan. These are brothers that really made an impression on your producers to do a whole episode around them. We're talking pizza here.
The Carney brothers, obviously founders of Pizza Hut, and one of the greatest facts about the creation of Pizza Hut ever. So the only sign they had was a premium given to them by Coca-Cola, and there was only room for 8 letters on it. They knew 5 of which had to be pizza. So they had 3 letters, and they thought about Pizza Pit. And ultimately, because of the curvature of the building roof, they said, okay, Pizza Hut. First night, the oven breaks and all these things go wrong. But whereas Domino's, and they took over a place called Dominic's, and
yes,
the delivery guy was going to go home, and this notion of, how far away do you live? I'll get it to you in 30 minutes. And this idea of guaranteeing a pizza in an amount of time was surreal. But I think people don't realize, even though Dan Carney apparently says it didn't really happen, that an offer was made to purchase Domino's by Pizza Hut. I mean, they were the 2 competitors. To be fair, and, I acted, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination Laurence Olivier or something like that. Talk about a dated reference. The actor who plays Carney in that episode, he's a very Vincent Kartheiser thing going on.
Yeah.
He has a slightly ham-fisted sociopathic delivery, and I'll never forget the line. He's sitting across the table. They want to buy Domino's. The guy from Domino's says, listen, I still feel there's more in the tank here, and I'm not ready to do that. And he goes like this. He says, all right, I get it. Betting on yourself. I totally understand that. Just know one thing. We'll never stop coming for you. I was like, holy hell, call security, dude. Has someone checked on the Monahan?
I mean, deep competition, I would say, to this day. I mean, those guys still try to get market share. I mean, there's a lot of incumbents coming up who are trying to get fast food pizza, like
Father John. Yeah,
Father John,
no,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
but I filmed with some of the top brass at Domino's for Adam Meets the 80s because I forgot this. That in the 80s, they actually did an initiative with two different varieties of breakfast pizza.
Oh my God, amazing.
They did it. It was in conjunction with USA Today newspaper, and you would call and you would get either a bacon, egg, and cheese pizza or like a blueberry strudel pizza. It would be delivered to you with a USA Today and I think a cup of coffee. The issue is this was pre-app time.
Yeah.
And with pizza, the window of ordering tends to be like 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.-ish. But breakfast is generally like, 7 to 9 a.m.?
Yeah.
And so they had a deluge of orders all coming in via analog telephone. It was a logistics nightmare.
Like 7:05, they have like
1,000 orders for these pizzas.
Yeah, not
so they
the best.
discontinued it. But I have to tell you, they found the recipes for us in the archives. Listen, if you're within earshot, Domino's, you got to bring that breakfast pizza back.
Did they make it for you?
Yeah, 100%. And then we went
Oh.
to Plano, Texas, to the Pizza Hut headquarters, which was great. They even gave me one of those awesome old school red pebbled glasses.
Oh, those are so great.
So sick.
I love
so
those.
sick. They even gave me and they gave the Jews some Christmas ornaments
Nice.
that were shaped like that. They brought back their discontinued items from the 80s, the Priazzo and the Calizza. They did that one that was like a calzone-ish type thing.
Yeah.
And the Priazzo was almost like a small pan pizza thing. And we asked them, we said, how did you come up with these names? And it was like a computer-generated thing to come up with.
They were using AI.
Similar, yeah, to create these names. I said, like, Priazzo sounds like part of a villa.
Yeah.
Like, oh, meet me out on the Priazzo.
Yeah, right.
Oh, my name is Giuseppe Calizza. But that was these names, and they were wonderful and really labor intensive.
Yeah.
But and people say, oh, now you live in New York and we have Lindustry, we have Best. What's the new one from the folks from, was it 11 Madison?
EMP, they have a new one. I can't remember the name.
Sestras or something?
Sounds like that. Yeah.
Something
it's
like
hard
that?
to remember, obviously, because I don't remember. It seems like that's like the buzzy $50 pizza, though. That's like the thing. They're hitting the $50 threshold.
Is that what it is?
Maybe 45, something like that.
See, that pizza, like, better come with, like, a Bitcoin or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I've had really because we filmed my show with First We Feast at Una Pizza Napolitana, which is the hotness, and I don't think charge.
Yeah, I mean, I might have made like kind of stretching. I think it's like 40. And listen, I'm all for charging if they're putting good ingredients. I'm
100%.
all for charging. We've talked about it a lot on the show. If it's a $40 pie, bless you for doing it. I thought you were going to see the Bigfoot pizza at Pizza Hut. Are you familiar with this from like the early 90s?
I remember the commercial. What was on the Bigfoot pizza?
It was extra large. It was like and they did the paper over it to deliver it. They had that little sheath.
Oh my God.
And they used a special cheese. And if anyone from Pizza Hut is listening, please write in, because they weren't using like low moisture mozzarella. They were using like a blended cheese that was so good.
I wonder if they use Provel. You a fan of Provel?
Oh, I love Provel. It's like St. Louis, right?
Yeah,
St. Louis.
Emo's Pizza.
Yeah, St. Louis style.
For people don't know, it's the hybrid of mozzarella and provolone.
I think that's what I mean. I will check Wikipedia. I'm sure that Pizza Hut
Bigfoot pizza.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
If you're doing the '90s, you gotta look at the Bigfoot pizza.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if I've ever had. Was it Little Caesars?
Wait, stop. Are you serious?
I may have. I think that I feel like
Little Caesars, man. The crazy bread.
Yeah,
never had.
You want to know something? I've never been to an Olive Garden. I've never been to a Five Guys, and it's not because like of some hauteur. I would. It just never presented itself.
Times Square is right here. We'll go to Olive Garden and we'll go.
But I heard they've changed. I saw Reddit. They changed the breadsticks or something like the.
Wait, they're not all you can eat anymore?
No, they changed the actual taste or formulation thereof.
Mistake.
I don't know, but that's the skinny. That's what I've gotten. What do you? And I've never had Five Guys. What are your thoughts on Five Guys?
My thoughts are it's not good. I don't like their fries, and I don't like. I mean, fast food burgers are obviously cooked to one temp. I just don't really like their patty. I don't like the ratios. I think it's way too much condiment and BS. I think it's for me. Shake Shack's God tier, and In-N-Out's probably number 2 if we're going fast food.
Yo, for real. So if we're going like with chains,
Yeah.
I used to do an event on the Upper West Side called Taste of the Upper West Side.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Shake Shack launched
Fun.
the Shackmeister, the one with the onions and the horseradish. That for a mass-produced burger,
Yeah.
it was almost like a char siu bao. It was
Oh,
like
cool.
that tenderness inside.
Yeah.
But, now we live in New York. You have George Motes with Hamburger
Love
America.
George. Been on the show a bunch of times. Yeah.
Mike Puma with Gotham Burger Social Club. And we have the classics, J.G. Mellons, P.J. Clark.
I was going straight fast food. I'm a JG number 1 guy. That's my one.
Them cottage fries. You bet them
cottage fries. You bet them.
And I got I tried the steak tartare for the first time.
Oh, interesting. Good choice. Have you been down to Superiority Burger?
No, where is
That's down in the East Village.
Good?
Yeah. That's a veggie burger, but like killer. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I'm not anti.
I don't think so.
When I need to probably do it again, seeing as how I probably can't close with that shirt I'm wearing.
You look good, man. What are you talking about? You look good.
Well, bless you.
Yeah.
Bless you. In the words of Blanche Dubois, oh, God love you for a lie. But no, the Window, have you ever been to the Window in L.A.? They have one in Venice.
No, I
they have
haven't.
one in Los Feliz.
Check it out.
Great smash burger, but they also do a vegan version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not one of these people that gets his hackles up about
Why would you?
TVP or...
Let me ask you, Adam, what's the dream show? For you, like,
That's a great question.
You have a production company of say, hey, Adam, we want you on, but we want your show. We're not thinking about ratings. We're not thinking about OTT.
I do have a few. I have a few.
What are you thinking?
So one is food tangential, but it's a working title, major in the minors or majoring in the minors.
Yeah.
I love the culture around minor league baseball because there are so many major cities in the United States that don't have a sports team, but minor league baseball, they have the greatest mascots. They have fields, the seats that are affordable to working people. They usually have unbelievable food. And it's about the fan and it's about the legacy, and there's a chance to see, a future superstar for pretty cheap and to be really close to the field. They've got crazy promotions and stuff like that. So I would say something about that. In terms of going abroad, I've always been fascinated with food involving like transit. So food on ferries, food in or by train stops.
Yeah.
On planes and things like that. I've always found that really quite fascinating. And because I did culinary anthropology, I think that there's something about going to a place and breaking down the why of what these dishes are.
Absolutely agree.
Because I was just mentioning to someone that was like kind of poo-pooing cilantro, and I was like, but no one stops and thinks, how is this one green leafy herb so prevalent in Vietnam as it is in Mexico, and called coriander in one place and cilantro in the other, and the versatility of it. I've also given some talks about farm to table, and I took my mom, and I've gone recently to Blue Hill at Stone Barns a couple of times in the past year. And I think there is something about farm to table because it's always sort of gotten my ire up that the people that work on our farms can seldom afford to eat at that table. And I think just if there's a kind of greater degree of accountability, I think that would be pretty cool.
I think you could do a really nice job in blending the stories of the farms and then stories of the fine dining, and then have like a real personality driven show.
I'd also kind of like to do something like with celebrities that have, because I find people much more famous than myself, of which there are. I mean, look, the parrot from Beretta is probably more famous than I am. But
good reference.
I'll dig. Sorry,
are you gonna do an A-Team reference at some point?
I was about to say the monkey from BJ and the Bear.
Okay,
and then all of a sudden people take out their dentures. So like, I knew that one.
Remember dentures? Remember, like, watching TV as a kid and having
Polydent.
Denture commercials?
Polydent, a caraway seed stuck between it. It was like Phyllis Diller doing the
So many
commercials.
Polydent and so many just, like, creams and gums and
But now we have Xarelto.
I know now we have all that stuff. It's wild. Like, listeners, sorry if you're below 30, you probably don't know what a denture is.
Okay, so I guess it would be the difference. Like, yeah, I don't know. It would be who's a whatever, a little animal mascot on the show. But the point I'm trying to say is I would love to see, because so many celebrities have an interest in food that don't work in that industry. What if there was like a blank slate restaurant and you let these people create a pop-up for a week and to see them pick a menu, pick what level of involvement they're in, pick dishes, and just to see their aesthetic. Like, I didn't see them having that
So
year.
they get to kind of shot call, but there's like a team that executes it.
Exactly
so
right.
It's not like this idea of failure, which I think is kind of a trap in reality TV.
Hate that.
I hate it too. It's like bullshit, and we all know it's always cooked anyways and fake. But like, let's make it really cool. But what is your vision of a pop-up, Selena Gomez?
Exactly. Yeah, right. Exactly right. So if John Legend and his wife did one, being that his wife has Thai roots, this notion
Chrissy Teigen,
Chrissy Teigen and her mom, and no, that's not how my mom would make that curry, and working to develop it, and just seeing another side, because as I meet professional athletes that recognize me and they talk about it, and learning what their food story is, or a musician and finding out what their food story is. And I also really have always wanted to do something. I began researching this for a book called Quest for the Best. And it's actually the name of my YouTube channel, where I for a couple of years, I was trying to find the best crab cake in Baltimore, best bone-in ribeye in Dallas.
Oh, fun.
Best bagel and schmear in Brooklyn.
I like it because it's a little bit of a debatable, like a debate show.
100%. Best key lime pie in Key West.
Yeah.
And I think that's that, and the minor league baseball one would be like number 1 and 2. I think Quest for the Best and major in the minors, because I feel it's the greatest opportunity to uplift as many other people and to make it about other people. I think my job as a host is to be you. I'm your it took me a minute to get it. It's not about me being clever. It's not about me being cool. It's about me being you. So if I'm rude to my host, you will accept me as your cipher, because you're going to go, dude, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't put my feet on the furniture. I wouldn't say, hey, toots. You know what I'm saying? So, but if I can become as invisible as possible, and you see Mike Emerson from Pappy's Barbecue in St. Louis and Skip Steele from Pappy's Barbecue, and you see their genius and their joy, I've done my job. So how sick would it be to go to Blue Heaven in Key West? And my favorite key lime pie is Joe's Stone Crab in Miami.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
I would say there.
What a cool restaurant, too.
Phenomenal. And the Key Lime Pie Factory in Red Hook, Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah, those guys are great. This one's for our lead producer, Clayton. You once said that the snack and food culture of America wouldn't be anything without Pennsylvania.
I stand by that.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
10 toes down. I said what I said. Think about it, though. Potato chips alone, right? You have Hers, and you have small niche brands like Middleswarth. But then you also have, I filmed in Berwick, Pennsylvania with Wise potato chips.
Oh, yeah.
But they make, Wise at their factory, make the kettle cooked chips. They make, what's that one, like Valley Run or River Valley or whatever else. Like there is so many, but then take them out of it, then go to chocolate. You have obviously Hershey's, you have York Peppermint Patties, I mean, it's named for York, PA, the Boyer Candy Company in Altoona, Pennsylvania, making Mallow Cups. The pretzel from I'm going to tell you, everybody, it's spelled Letitz, and it's pronounced like lettuce. It's Letitz, Pennsylvania, is the birth of the pretzel in America. But again, Schneider's, Hanover,
Schneider's of Hanover,
Bachman, like there's so many pretzel makers. Then you can talk about like you go to Philadelphia, right? The Philadelphia cream cheese was actually created in New York, but Philadelphia was synonymous with cows, big cow culture there. So again, you go just the branding alone. The cinnamon roll, Swedish immigrants in and around Philadelphia. So they've brought, what was the progenitor of the cinnamon roll, which is, I think it was called Stollen. They brought it to America. So now you have their contribution. And then you can even go further to the modern era. You think about the cheesesteak. You think about water ice. You think about their soft pretzels. And now you have the roast pork sandwiches that now people associate with Philadelphia. I think that there's just something partially. So I actually did this research. So the oldest continuing operating chocolatier in the United States, still in operation, is called Shane Chocolatier. It's next to the iconic Franklin Fountain on, I believe, Market. But a third of the chocolate coming into the United States during the 18th century came through Philadelphia. Wow. And I think it's just really telling that you have so much influence brought to bear because of that shipping trade. It's like why the immigration coming into the Lower East Side helped shape us. I did a campaign with Hormel, and you would be surprised how many people didn't realize, like, pepperoni is not Italian. It was created in, like, 1909 in the Lower East Side of New York.
Wow.
Like, it was people mimicking sopressat. And pepperoni really was perfected by Hormel in Minnesota. But Pennsylvania, I have found, between the dairy, strong farm culture, and even ice cream. Turkey Hill, I filmed with them in Lancaster. They do iced teas now and stuff, but iconic ice cream brands all coming out of.
And you mentioned Hershey's at the top of the show too. Of course, we got that.
Yeah,
So
I mean Hershey's has the whole town.
Is the whole freaking town. So
Heinz in Pittsburgh.
Heinz in Pittsburgh, and there's no like fancy ketchup in your pantry, right?
No.
I mean, no. Like,
Although
no.
I remember back in the day when HBO, and I was a little kid, when they had Brain Games and Inside the NFL with Nick Bonaconti and Len Dawson, and like their only original programming was Dream On with Brian Benben and First and 10 with Delta Burke and famed running back and murderer O.J. Simpson. They had a show, they did Consumer Reports, and I'll never forget that Hunt's beat Heinz in a taste test.
Hunt's.
But no, I got French's mustard and Gulden's mustard and Hellman's mayo and Heinz ketchup in my fridge. Like the classics are classics
Heinz
for a reason.
I mean, Heinz is the only one for ketchup.
You know what's so crazy about that 57? Did you know that they actually had more than 57 varieties when that came out? Heinz was riding the L in Chicago. He saw a place advertising 28 varieties of shoes, and he liked the idea of having a number. The rumor is his lucky number was 5. His wife's was 7. He combined them. Other people say he just liked the number 57. But in point of fact, he had just picked this number arbitrarily, but have more products than 57. And again, that success, the success of Heinz, really relates to World War II because he was putting all those canned provisions in British shelves. And all my friends in England are like, mate, Heinz means beans. I'm like, okay, got
We're
it.
thinking ketchup over here. What a great story. I love that Pennsylvania punches above its weight. Adam, on This Is Taste, we asked guest our brother Turing Taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire. Fast and Furious Taste check. Are you ready?
I hope so. Yes. I'm very ready.
The best fruit.
Best fruit, strawberry.
What kind of strawberry?
Oh.
Abstract question, I get.
Abstract question. Big fat one. I think Dorset is where they come from in England.
That's what I was going for. The worst vegetable.
Worst vegetable. Ooh, boy. I know like worst vegetable, like side dish, but lima bean?
Yeah. Maligned, canned, very bad. The best dessert.
Best dessert. Junior's cheesecake.
Love that call out. We don't go to Junior's enough. Support Junior's.
Yeah, shout out the Rosen family. Yeah, no, made me the
Rosen
man
family.
I am today.
Love that. What's your typical breakfast?
If I eat breakfast, Ezekiel bread, 2 eggs sunny side up, toast. Yeah, sort of basic bitch kind of thing. Sliced avocado.
Oh, good avo. That's good.
Turkey bacon if I have time.
Okay. This is a good one, I think, for you. Is there a restaurant you wish you could bring back from the dead?
Yes. 2, Deadlock Thai, Luchow's, which was like here in Manhattan, and it was sort of a little German themed or Austrian
No
themed. I
way.
remember,
Right.
but I went when I was younger. There was also a place called the Triangle Hofbrau in Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. That was another deeply, deeply special one for me, I think.
What is your favorite city to visit outside America for food?
Fantastic question. San Sebastian?
Into it.
San Sebastian and Tokyo.
Yeah, good answers. What is your favorite cookbook of all time?
Selfishly, probably my own. But no, I mean, I grew up learning from the New York Times cookbook.
Mm.
And I think that's sort of like a Bible in my house. So I'd say that one, but then if not that, my own.
I love it. Respect. What's the title of your book?
Straight Up Tasty, Meals, Memories, and Mouthfuls from My Travels.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there was a colon in the middle there.
Yeah, I feel it was a colon in there.
A Sir title.
Straight Up Tasty is fun. Last one, your favorite sandwich?
Probably, so like as a classic sandwich or a specific place?
Qualified.
Is it
Go
am
with.
I allowed to qualify?
You can qualify. You're allowed to. We've had a great interview. You're allowed
Okay,
to
so
qualify.
if we're going general, the chicken salad club. If I'm like, so chicken salad, bacon, lettuce, tomato, without the middle slice of bread. But I normally say Tommy DeNick's roast pork from Reading Terminal Market, but I just had a sandwich in London from a place called Sandwich. A young guy from Bristol and his girlfriend moved up to London, and their Christmas sandwich literally almost made me cry. It was that good. It was, first of all, he more or less sleeps in the store. It works like 18-hour days, this kid. He's just absolutely bloody incredible. But sandwiches, Christmas sandwich or holiday sandwich, and is spectacular. And I just had Angelo's cheesesteak in Philly. He's the guy who partnered with Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
That was pretty great. But I love Tommy DeNick's roast pork. I voted it best sandwich in America, and it's
What's the
pretty
voting
good.
body? What is this?
You're looking at it.
So good. Adam Richman, what a pleasure. What a great conversation. Thank you so much
Thanks.
for
What a
joining
great
us
interview.
Taste.
Oh, it's the best. This is like one of those usually interviews you can't always tell you using canned sound bites. Like,
Oh.
I don't know, you have another guest coming. I don't want to leave.
Oh, well.
I don't want to leave. If you had like loops in the arm, I would zip tie myself.
So you'll have to come back then.
Say less. I would. Let's go get some sandwiches.
I love it. Lindsay Green, welcome back to This Is Taste. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me back. I'm great. How are you?
I'm really great. You sent me your amazing top 10 restaurants in Detroit, where you're the dining critic at the Detroit Free Press, and I just love reading your work.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, and it shows so much, reporting that goes into your, this big tentpole list. But of course, you're reviewing restaurants every week. How do you find time to do this big list and then review the weekly restaurants?
Man, I don't actually review weekly, which is kind of nice.
Oh,
That
good.
gives me room to not lose my mind.
Yeah.
But it is a lot. And so I actually don't know if you know this, Matt, but I was on maternity leave. I just had a baby 4 months ago now. And so it made, curating this list a little challenging because I was gone for part of the time. And once I got back, I jumped right into the list and it's just been a whirlwind.
Well, congratulations, and I love the list. Let's go over. I want to start actually with Restaurant of the Year, because you write this beautiful profile of Adriana Jimenez of the restaurant Vecino. It's a really great snapshot with somebody with like deep Detroit roots who started restaurants in Pontiac and Waterford, and then eventually opened up Vecino kind of more downtown. What drew you in to Adriana and her work?
So I think what's really great about Vecino and Adriana's story is just that, you know, Detroit has a huge Mexican population, and we've got a really established Mexican dining scene in Southwest Detroit. But what Vecino is doing is, first of all, like you said, it's in Midtown, so not in Southwest Detroit, and it brings a different cuisine. So the restaurants that we're familiar with in Southwest are largely Jalisco leaning, And so Vecino is focusing on Mexico City cuisine, which is just different for the scene. It just brings something new. And then it's also, it's an upscale kind of environment, which feels very Mexico City, feels very sort of metropolitan, which also just fits in, that Midtown Detroit neighborhood. Whereas in Southwest Detroit, a lot of the restaurants are a lot more casual. It just really feels fresh for the scene. And Adriana just it seems like the perfect person to bring this kind of a restaurant to Detroit, because of her family history, because she kind of grew up in restaurants in the area, and because she is, a Mexico City native. So I'm really excited about what they're doing.
Is it a tough reservation?
It's about to be.
I love that. Of course it is. That's really fun. When you profiled her, did you tell her that this would be the number one restaurant, or were you just like interviewing her?
No,
Oh,
no, it's totally a secret. And it's really funny because for a lot of folks who have been around for a while, they kind of know what to expect when I reach out, but I'm super vague.
yeah.
I'm writing a story about restaurants that have opened over the past year and love to know more about your story. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure at this point she suspects it. And then just the cadence of the way we roll them out, going from 10 to 6, then 5 to 2, as they see, oh, I'm not number 5, I'm not number 4, then it's like, oh, you get ready.
Oh, that's really, really fun. I love that reporting when you're just talking to restaurant and chefs and vaguely about this big plan you have. It's so great.
It's
Uh,
so true.
let's look at your top 10. First broadly, you wisely framed it around immigrant foodways. Lindsay, tell us why it was so important to have this lead the selection of these restaurants, maybe over, simply the 10 best, during these, times of great political upheaval and really some policies that are, I would say, gravely affecting immigrants in our country.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think it's important to note that this isn't something that I am editorializing. This really is the nature of the best restaurants in this area during this time. And so when I started to see this trend, it kind of started with Vecino really being an exciting addition to the scene. I started to sort of see this trend of, okay, well, there's Vecino that is, you know, focused on Mexican cuisine, and then there's Puma, which is a restaurant that was intended to be a choripaneria, which is a place where you get choripans in Argentina, and then you see like. Okay, maybe it's not immigrant led, but then you see a restaurant like Lenya, which is focused on Spanish cuisine. And you just start to see this list of really beautiful sort of cultural moments come together. And that's against the backdrop of, what's going on politically in this country and um, sort of the conversation around immigrants and just kind of seeing that juxtaposition felt like I could not call that out. I could not acknowledge the fact that our best restaurants really are driven by folks who come from immigrant families or who are immigrants themselves or who are just wanting to celebrate cultural foodways because they're just so delicious. And so it kind of happened by I want to say by accident, but it's also just kind of consistent with um, what have been the best restaurants over the past, I want to say that in recent years, but really it's sort of forever. I think these international foodways, these global foodways are they power our dining scene and they're acknowledged for it for a reason. So I kind of in that intro I reflected on our former winners too. Sozai was a restaurant of the year and went on to win a James Beard, and that's led by a Japanese chef. And one of the first James Beard Awards that we had in over 20 years, was also a Japanese chef from Japan. And then we had Warda, who, we love. She's a pastry chef based in Detroit, and she won the first James Beard in like over 30 years in, Detroit proper. And she's from Algeria. So kind of just this reflection of um, the immigrant contribution to our dining scene and just cultural foodways that we love so much.
Absolutely, and I love the Warda Patisserie mention. What an
Yeah.
incredible visit! And also, I'll just add too. Looking at the top 10, there's also a spirit of community, which can be a watered down term in some ways, but you really do highlight restaurants that are creating third spaces, that are creating community in neighborhoods that are maybe formerly underserved. I was speaking with an editor recently at a national food magazine about Detroit, and she had a real sense that Detroit supports Detroit, and like you're at
Mhm.
Shannon wine bar, and you're hanging out with people who are at Vesper the night before, and then you're hanging out with people. So like that seems like it informed your list as well.
It's so true. Yeah, that's something that comes up consistently, just that Detroit is this collaborative food community, whereas in other scenes you might see more competition. And I'm really happy to see that that has been consistent across the board, from pop-up chefs to traditional restaurant chefs. There really is this community. I mean, even so, Vesper, we announced that winner at number 7 yesterday, and just seeing all of the other restaurants on our list and other restaurants that aren't on the list, just kind of shouting them out and sharing their story and, giving them sort of their flowers, as the kids say these days, but just being really, really happy and supportive for them making this list just shows that, they have the community support.
Well, let's stick with Vesper. I love to see that inclusion. I got to meet the founding partners last
Mm,
spring when I did a big event with Eric Kim and John Kung for my book Korea World, and they couldn't have been nicer
yeah.
to work with. And this is a space that is really multidimensional. It's a wine bar. It's a cookbook store, which resonates with what the work we do here at Taste. It's definitely a third space. Talk about Vesper and why our listeners need to stop by.
Yeah, so Vesper is an example of a place that really embodies why I kind of made the change to include spaces that are not just traditional restaurants on our list. It's the kind of place that I really want people to know about when they're outside of Detroit. I want them to say, "Wow, Detroit has, even more than just great restaurants. They've also got great wine bars, they've got great cafes, they've got great bakeries." And so Vesper is a cool spot because I love what Rob and Samantha are doing, in that they're taking that stuffiness or that pretense out of the wine bar experience. And even they're kind of taking out that hipster vibe too. They really just have created this playful, lighthearted, like I said, sort of community driven space, and they're making it fun, but they're also taking it really seriously. Rob is really being thoughtful in the way that he's curating the wine collection there, the bottles, the glasses, everything that they serve. And then they're also serving, like, bread and butter boards, sourcing bread from a local bread baker who's in the Core City neighborhood and doing some really phenomenal things. So again, that community element is there. Samantha's curating some really great cookbooks. I picked up a copy of the new Flamingo Estate coffee table book.
Oh,
I'm
fun.
I'm drawing a blank on the name, but that one is really beautiful. And also the new Eric Ajapong. I think you might have just had him on the show
We
recently.
did, yeah. We had
Yeah,
a wonderful conversation with Eric. What a
love him.
terrific book, and I loved in the copy you plug and mentioned Cake Zine, which
Yes, yes, and that it's just such a beautiful copy. I just
yeah,
think it's really giving that biblical text that it's
Daily
so
Bread.
cool.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. It's very fun, and I think that Vesper really is making an effort to program conversations with cookbook authors on book tour, which Detroit really needed from my point of view. And now there's a great space for all authors to swing by, and of course with the wine program, There couldn't be a better place to have a cookbook event than a wine bar.
Oh my gosh, exactly. It's perfect. It's really cool. It's a great place for so many things, book clubs. You could pull up and just have wine or, sometimes I go in there and I'll work. I'll sit there on
Yeah.
my computer. It really is. I think they've achieved that intention for being a third space.
Let's move on to Savoy in Cornerstone Village. I love this mention because I was unfamiliar with this restaurant and really want to visit. What were you saying when you selected Savoy? What did Savoy mean to the neighborhood?
Yeah, I think what Savoy does is it brings this more upscale sort of restaurant to a neighborhood that really doesn't have that option. I live on the east side of Detroit, not far from Savoy, and a lot of the options that we have over here are takeout spots. It's takeout or it's fast food, and so they've brought an option that allows people to, have a date night or have a girls' night or have a solo, date night. And it's really nice for the neighborhood.
I'm not gonna spoil all of the selections because you should definitely click on the link that I'm sure you can get a subscription if you don't have one, and if you live in the Midwest, Detroit is hands down the most exciting food city in the Midwest. I'm saying it. It's
Yes.
true.
Yes.
Let's close and talk about Norm's Diner, which lands in the top 5. I love this idea of the diner being elevated, but what is it saying? Like, is it saying that this is a diner that is an exemplary diner and doing diner food, or is it elevating the idea of a diner? I just want to know more about it. I have questions.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great question. Yeah, I think it's both. I mean, I think that Norms is definitely kind of elevating diner food. So, especially here in Detroit, a lot of our diners are Coney Islands, or you've got those kind of mom and pop shops that have been around for a long time. And I think what Norms is doing is taking that same concept, but they're taking it really seriously. They're making, pretty much everything in house. They're making house made sausages, they've got house made breads and, biscuits. So I think it is the same, concept of that mom and pop feel, but they're taking it a step further. And I think, it's funny. I had a conversation with Kate at over at Bon Appetit, and we kind of were talking about just this trend that the all day diner is really having a moment across the country. So it's kind of nice to see that a place like Norms or folks in Detroit are kind of following the national trend of really serving great food and really exciting menu items. But from a diner, there's no frills here. You can't make a reservation. There's a line out the door every day that they're open. It's fun for me. The specials are the most exciting pieces of the menu at Norms. I had a Johnny cake with like a chicken cutlet once that just was it was amazing. It had like hot honey on it and they, chopped peppers on top. That's not the kind of thing you're going to find at a normal diner.
Oh my god, this is making me very hungry. I have to make it at Norm's Diner. Let's close, Lindsay, and just like you've done all this research for the top 10 and all the established restaurants. Are there any new openings that maybe you haven't been able to visit, or any other restaurants that you think would know about in Detroit? I know that's a broad question.
Yeah, actually there are some exciting projects that I'm looking forward to. I'm always thinking about the next list. So, there's a place actually, they're not in Detroit, they're in Birmingham, but it's called Wilders and they're from the owners of Phoenicia and Layla, and some great restaurants in the area. I'm looking forward to that one. It, it's new American. They're kind of flashing back to this Americana feel, which in itself is interesting to me. And I think the same. Sorry to go back to Norms, but I think the same of Norms. I think there's this. I'm starting to see this trend of restaurateurs who are feeling um, this sort of penchant for nostalgia. I think that you feel that with a diner, for example, where for some people it's this feeling of, wanting to get back to a time that they really loved. And for some of us, like me, it's this longing for something that you never even knew, right? I never knew the days of the retro diner. So yeah, there's something there. And I'm seeing that in Wilders. I'm seeing that in Norms. I'm sure there will be some others this year.
It brings up a topic of the northern suburbs. My sister lives up there by Birmingham, and like you had a Birmingham restaurant in your top 10, and there's been as a local, as a Michigander myself, and with my mom growing up on the west side of Detroit, the northern suburbs were pretty cursed when it came to food. That was the perception, but you're doing the work and you live there. It seems like there's some exciting things happening in the suburbs.
Yeah, there are. This year's list was largely Detroit. We did have a Birmingham spot. We did have a spot also in Oak Park, which Oak Park is, man, there's so much there. There are great bars, there are great restaurants, there are great sort of gastropubs, and Oak Park is a place that you would not have heard of, in the past 10 years at all. So, yeah, there are things happening in the suburbs. I do cover Metro Detroit as a whole, so I'm always looking to see where those sort of hidden gems are. And I hope there will be some
Oh my
more.
gosh, such opportunity up there too, with
Yeah.
a restaurant hungry population
Yes.
looking, and this new opening sounds exciting. Lindsay Green, this has been so fun. I hope to have you in the studio soon, and we can talk about so many other topics.
Yes, I would love that. Thank you so much for having me.
This is Taste is hosted and produced by Eliza Barbanel and me, Matt Rodbard. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.